over some shooting range stuff. Well, not really just the shooting range, but generally how to get good at aim, recoil control, all of that. I hope I can help out. My peak was silver, and I use paddles, so I can't really say much for people who are actually on normal controllers. But I feel like the general idea of recoil control and aim and developing all that is something you can apply to any user's device, no matter what you're using, mouse and keyboard, controller with paddles, elite controller, that type of stuff. I don't think it really matters. So let's get into it. First thing. Okay, I'm gonna say a lot because this is not scripted at all. This is just me speaking. Okay, I gotta stop. I don't recommend right stick 3 dead zone because a lot of normal controllers will have some drift on that. Right now, even on my elite controller, I have like no drift, but if I barely touch the joystick, really not too noticeable. But if I'm journeying and stuff, for some reason it's way more sensitive, and I'll just be like this the whole time or doing dumb stuff. And sometimes it can throw off your aim when you're holding an angle, and all of a sudden you barely move your joystick and you're just going. So just be careful with that. I recommend 5.5 just because that's what most pros use. And it usually works out well with most controllers, no controller drift. If you do have controller drift, you can always go higher, but I don't recommend it because lower means faster reaction to whatever you're doing. Faster movement, faster anything. Even with your left joystick. Okay. Now, for these little guys right here. This is all preference. So what I did was, when I first joined the game and everything, to figure out what my sensitivity should be and all that, is I went to Royal Penguin. I'm pretty sure. I watched his video on it. Basically what he says is that your sensitivity should be able to track these guys' head. Maybe not perfect, but mostly. And like I said, I'm not amazing at this game. There's a reason this is a guide to get good and not amazing. Because I am nowhere near most of the players on this game that are higher ranks, like Royal Penguin. But just track their heads. If you track their heads, that's generally gonna tell you what your horizontal sensitivity should be. With vertical, I like to argue that vertical should match your recoil control. So when you try to control recoil on a gun, if you're not pulling down enough, then it needs to go higher. If you're pulling down, let me just reload real quick. If you're pulling down too much, then it needs to go lower. And you just kind of go in between that until you find your perfect little in between. Now, one of the most important things is, I know I'm going over basic stuff, and this is a casual guide to get good. You guys probably know most of this stuff, but just in case some beginners want to watch this video, I'm trying to go over a little bit of everything. Controller rotation is definitely actually really important. Updated feels a lot slower and a lot less reactive. I do not recommend it. Some people do, some people don't. It really is a preference thing, but me personally, I think it makes everything way too slow. So I go on classic. Now, controller ADS sensitivity. Now, this is actually very important. You should there's no saying no to this. You have to have controller ADS sensitivity to advance. So what this does is, for each different magnification, it changes your sensitivity for each different magnification or scope. So like this right here, I believe would be a, let's see, this would be a 1.0, and ACOGs would be 2.0. 3.5 is the old scope that was removed last season, so it doesn't actually matter what your sensitivity is for this one. And these two are for Glaz and Kali, and then pretty sure magnified Kali. Because when you go on Kali, the 12.0 would be see how you can zoom in? That would be your sensitivity for this scope specifically. But general sensitivity for all snipers, like Glaz and Kali's non-magnified, you see how it's not magnified? 12? And then the other one, whatever it was called. Hopefully I don't bore you guys doing this, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel like editing this. It's gonna be a stream, 1 hour, probably a 1 hour video. My phone's probably gonna crash 7 times if I do, so hopefully you guys don't mind. Basically, non-magnified scopes is 1.0. That includes like the I forget what it's called. That includes all these. All of these are non-magnified, including iron sights. Now 2.0 or 2.5 or whatever is magnified scopes, and the rest is just snipers or either removed from the game. I would focus on ACOGs and what's it called? ACOG and non-magnified scopes like this one right here, because those are going to be the ones you mainly use unless you're planning to become a Kali main, which definitely eventually figure out your sensitivity for those scopes, but you're not gonna I doubt you're gonna use Glaz or Kali a lot, and you can obviously, but those sensitivities you should figure out later. You should figure out the 90% of the guns in the game's sensitivities first. Now, for finding out, this is kind of tricky to figure out. So, for ACOG, you want to remember that you're magnified. There's two things though. These two kind of affect how this works. So, overall, those two sensitivities do affect your ACOG sensitivity, and it does affect your non-magnified. It affects every scope sensitivity just a little bit. That's why I said you want to have good vertical recoil. I mean vertical sensitivity that matches your recoil control, like that. And horizontal, because it affects how you flick. Those two sensitivities affect how you flick. Because if I stay in ACOG, you see it's really fast, kind of too fast to completely... that type of thing. But if you look... not my best example, obviously. I'm not amazing, and I probably could have done better. But this is a tutorial video, okay? But you should keep in mind that having a fast look speed means that when you look to aim, you're matching that speed, if you get what I mean. It's kind of hard to explain, but if your ACOG is slower, that means you're going to go really fast and then slow down and then be like a snail. So, what a lot of people say is you want lower look speed and higher ACOG speed. That usually works out better. I am very sorry this video is not put together very well at all. I'm not gonna lie. Not my best video, I guess. I didn't make a script or anything. I just felt like putting this together. But the next thing I want to explain is weapon spread, and I feel like this is really well explained with the SMG. Hold on. What's up? Crazy MC20. That's my Discord. So with weapon spread, the thing about this SMG is it's really on point for being an SMG. When you use like Mute's SMG-11, it goes back and forth a lot, and if you're not aiming, it's like it goes out very far. The thing about this is it's actually very accurate. You can hit headshots without actually aiming, as long as you have your crosshair placed in the right spot. But the thing about this is people are like, oh, okay, then I can just run around and shoot people with it. No, the thing is, weapons have spread when you start moving. You see the crosshair in the middle? The more it expands, the higher the radius is for your gun bullets to go. So let's say I don't move, headshot. If I do move, the bullets go out to, you can see, to there. So there's no bullet there. But if you move with this gun, then it's gonna spread out a lot, and you're not actually gonna hit anything. That doesn't mean you should run around no aiming, just try to headshot people constantly. But a big thing to realize is that the more that you move, the more your weapon spread's gonna be, the more it's gonna spread out. I wanna compare it. So like, move, no move. Still a lot, but the beginning bullets stay in the circle way more. I'm trying to think of what else I can say. I'm not very good at this. Oh, yeah, that's right. So when you change your sensitivity, what I recommend to do is go to a gun with high recoil that you like to play, and then try to control that, and then go to a operator with like no recoil gun, and then try to control that, like that, and then go to an operator with like somewhere in the middle. Kind of difficult to say exactly what that is. I say a zombie is a good example of that, because when you switch your sensitivity, a lot of people will try to main their operators, and the problem with that is you end up playing like Goyo, Mira, and then you're used to high recoil guns, and then when you go to a low recoil gun, you're gonna pull down too much, and then your aim's gonna look like that. So make sure to just generally practice with most of the different gun types. The best example for like literally no recoil gun, I believe, is probably Jackal. Which, I mean, you see what I mean? And then high recoil guns, a good example of that are like Dokubi's SMG 12, Goyo, operators like that. But the problem with using things like the Vector to show if you have good recoil control is, I mean, this is part of good recoil control, but when you shoot a gun like this, it shows better on the it goes back and forth a lot. So that shows your horizontal recoil control, while holding it down shows your vertical recoil control, if that makes sense. And then a good operator to play with like medium recoil control, that type of thing, to figure out is the Commando. Commando has very jumpy recoil control, that type of thing. I think that's a good example of mid recoil. Azami and Grim. Drawing blanks here. Trying to think of what else I can say. I don't think there is anything else I could say. Oh, well, I could say this. Tips for using the shooting range to figure out your aim. You want to, 1, stop doing all this. This is not helping you. You need to learn to aim, just aim, no rotate. Because the thing is, this is open. There's no point of rotating your gun like this, unless you're aiming off like this and then peeking into the field. Then you have an advantage. You gotta remember though, the more you the closer you are to objects like this, trying to hide your body and peek like that, is there's like a perspective thing where they can see you and you can't see them. So remember to not like hug whatever you're hiding behind. Play far from it, but still hide behind it, if that makes sense. So first, just stand right here, and then just try to shoot at them from here. That type of thing. But once you get used to that, it's a good idea to learn how to put movement into your aim. Get used to moving and tracking. Now, these are the settings I have set up for my shooting range, if you're curious. At some point, once you get used to the figuring out how to track and shoot moving targets, it's always a good idea to go to non-moving targets and just flick on each person. Learn to flick. And if you get really good with shooting at people and like generally you're not missing, but you're killing a lot, you should go to headshot only, because then you can train your accuracy to hit for heads. And a big thing, a very funny thing I learned from my friend is that most of the time he'd say that to run like shotguns on every operator, even Oryx. And the thing about that is his mentality is, I'm more likely to shoot them with my shotgun. I'm more likely to shoot them with my shotgun with body shots than they are to hit a headshot on me. But in reality, that is not true. You need to realize that this is a one-shot headshot game. You should be aiming for head. If you don't, then you're always going to die first no matter what. In the scenario where someone's aiming for head and they don't miss, then you're just dead before them. There's no other way of putting it. Also, realize that shotguns aren't as OP as you think. It's good to use all the weapons, and there are some weapons like Grim Shotgun, which are fun to play with and you can be good with, but generally it's not recommended just because these guns do such low damage. I mean 44 damage, but the spread is kind of weak. Shotguns, like good shotguns, are like M5, Boss G. Those shotguns are good. I mean, those are really the only real good shotguns in the game. You could, like, this only does 31 damage, still the spread is weak. You can pull off these shotguns, don't get me wrong, but it's better that you just stick with M5 and Boss G. And Boss G is a little bit difficult, so I recommend M5 before Boss G. Oh, another big thing is your attachments. I generally recommend lasers on everything but shotguns. I run lasers on shotguns just because I like the feel of it, to be honest. It's just a feeling thing. Because, not even really just a feeling thing. It kind of helps my reaction time. Because then I can just... My sensitivity feels a little low. Oh yeah, that's right. That's why. I'm like, why aren't these body shots hitting? Headshot only mode. I like it because I can just flick onto each one. Did I put this on far too? I did. I didn't remember doing that. It is a good idea to test different distances, by the way. But it helps me just flick on two of them. Not my best example. The problem with this though is that most of the time when you're playing shotgun, you're going to be close, and usually around an angle like this or something. So when you're, let's say the enemy is like right here, and you're holding this shotgun like right at the wall waiting for them to come in, they're gonna see your laser, and with a shotgun, short range and everything, that's not a good idea, because then you're just gonna get pre-fired, especially since most of the time when you're playing shotgun, you hide in a corner to catch them off guard, and that's just not gonna work if they're gonna see your laser. So most pros recommend you run no laser for shotguns. A lot of pros say do run laser with every other, just because the reaction time is such a game changer. You could not, some say do not, very little say do not, but it's generally recommended, especially for a casual player who wants to get the most out of what they can do. Like, y'all obviously aren't pros, so you're gonna trip up a lot when it comes to reaction time. So it's probably better just run laser. What else is there? I mean, I could go over attachments. So it's okay. I would begin with a video. Video on, look up any pro gamer YouTuber R6 attachment setups. Generally, it's a good idea to start with somebody else's attachment setups, but you gotta learn to, I'm not saying you have to, I'm not saying that they're wrong or something, or that their setups aren't good, but when it comes to attachments and different grips, they depend on the person, how you control recoil. So with Goyo, the thing with me and Goyo is that I can easily pull down his recoil. Some people can't do that. Thing with Flash Hider is this stops. Flash Hider makes it easier to pull down, while Compensator makes it turn left and right less. Well, when I aim and I shoot, you see how I'm not really going too up or too far, but I'm going side to side way too much. Well, if I use Compensator, then my aim won't go too far left and right, which, I mean, I don't do this often, so let's see what it looks like on Flash Hider. Okay. See, that goes here. Let's show it on the table. Goes back and forth a lot. But if I go in here, then we respawn. See that? Big difference. Big difference. Now you might not think that's very big, but like in this game, if you just barely whiff, you're gonna have a problem. Yeah, I'll accept that.
Remember to always complete your mission reports on arrival.
Okay. I feel like I keep saying that's like all I can tell you guys, but I feel like there could be, I could go on and on forever about how to get good aim, how to get good recoil control, how to use movement while you're shooting and all that. But it's the type of subject that's kind of controversial. Not really controversial, but everyone has their own tips and tricks, and there's just so many that you can't just say it all at once. I wish I had enough like followers to where I could just do like a Q&A type thing where people are like, how do I shoot while moving and stuff like that. But like I don't, so I can't exactly make the best video, and I'd love to go not do a script. I don't like doing scripts. Feels like I turn into a robot. I rather just give what I know, but it's kind of hard to just take that out of your head and be like, what do I know? You know, you just kind of play the game. You don't realize all this stuff that other people don't realize that they should be doing, that you do know, but you don't even realize that you know, if that makes sense. I think this is where I end the stream and upload this video, because I have no clue what else to say. Oh, by the way, another really low recoil gun that's underrated for recoil testing and all that is MP5 with compensator. It's kind of ridiculous. I was wow, that looks terrible. Let's not look at that. But I uploaded a short of me shooting at a person with the MP5 with compensator. They were like, what in the recoil control? And I'm like, well, MPX or MP5, it doesn't have that much recoil, which I just changed my sensitivity, so don't blame me, okay? But like, it really doesn't have any recoil control, and when you figure out how to control this gun, it can be wildly overpowered. Because not only is this gun really good, how much damage does 27 damage, and you can spit out bullets like this with no recoil. On top of that, it's stock. I mean, if you miss a couple shots, go into cover, pull out your bailiff, or not even your bailiff, literally, if you're, I don't know how to do a good example of this, but if you're hiding behind, no, not hiding behind something, if you're out in the open, you go to shoot somebody, you miss a couple times, you hit some body shots, but then they shoot back at you and you're like 20 HP. Pull your stim out. Let's pretend my bailiff is a stim because I can't pull it out because I'm in the shooting range. But you pull your stim out, and this makes you, what, 10% faster, I believe? So then you run into cover, you stim yourself, you pull out your gun again, and then you go back to shooting the guy. It's actually really overpowered, and I don't know why a lot of people don't realize it. Like I said, there's like a lot of stuff I could say, but there's just like, I need questions first to actually answer instead of just going off the top of my mind. One other thing I could say about guns like the MP7, not all guns are going to be as straightforward when it comes to attachments. You see the recoil pattern in the bottom right, right? Well, it looks like, man, that spread is really far out. I should be running compensator. If I run compensator, I'm not saying everyone's like this, maybe you aren't, but if I run compensator, recoil looks like this. Which isn't bad, but if I run muzzle brake, I think I just tricked myself. I think compensator is better. Hold on a second. Yeah, compensator's better. I don't know what I was yapping about. Let's go to 0, because he has ACOG. Maybe that's why. Okay, so... No, let's go... Why am I running flash hider on this? What in the world is going on today? Yeah.
Mission details confidential. Only discussed.
No, that makes sense. It does. It does go up a bit. Okay. So, that's another thing. Like I said, it's literally just your own opinion. You don't have to follow what other people say. But, I don't know why I started that. But, generally, start with somebody else's loadouts and then work up from that. Preferably a pro and not some random. Not your cousin just because he's a silver, okay? Some silvers can have some wild setups, man. A lot of them like to just run suppressor on everything, and that's really not a good idea. There's a couple guns you should be running suppressor with, not all of them, or not even half of them you should be running suppressor with, so just be careful with that. I wanna... See, like I said, don't follow whatever your cousin or friend or whoever says, because it really is all just whatever you want. I've seen a lot of pros run suppressor on this gun, but I don't usually do it because the recoil is kind of messy. But I do want to try it, so I'm trying that now. Wait a second. Maybe it's because it's not far away enough. Yikes. Yikes. That's better. Okay, I might actually try out running mute with suppressor. But there's definitely a lot of different combos, and you might not think so, but whatever you attach to your gun, it really does matter. It really does change how the game works. I mean, look at the recoil control difference now. Okay, not my best example. There we go. Very different. Very, very different. So just kind of realize that, okay? I'm gonna keep saying this, but like, I can't pull things out of my head about being good as a casual, not being amazing, not being like champ level, but just being good, like silver level gameplay. Because there's just so much to having good aim, good recoil, good everything that I can't answer it unless there were questions. I can't really answer it unless I had like a set of questions. Yeah. Like, I don't know what else to say. A set of questions would be nice. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll make a whole video just for each question that's put out for these. One thing I didn't show you guys is I do use advanced sensitivity, because the problem with this, what I noticed is if I turn off my advanced sensitivity, this feels way too slow for me. But when it's slow like this, I have good aim. You see that? Good recoil control, good aim. The problem is, I mean, good recoil control, okay? When I have that advanced sensitivity off. Good recoil control, but it's so slow. It's so slow that I can't like flick for anything comfortably. It's just too slow. See how I'm struggling to actually hit on the spot. But with the advanced sensitivity, I can make it to where, okay, Advanced sensitivity is a lot to go over. I will right now go over all of it. Hopefully not bore you all to death. But basically, horizontal look acceleration is the your sensitivity with just looking, but accelerated. So the best way I can explain this, and I can't say I'm 100% right. I'm not like some FET or something, you know what I mean? But vertical sensitivity at 30, which means horizontal look acceleration will be put up by 65%. And then same thing for vertical look acceleration. And then the rest is just kind of self-explanatory. It's shown at the top right if you really need an explanation. I don't mess with these because ADS acceleration, that's a big thing people look at. Um, they know that it's like obviously ADS sensitivity is your sensitivity while aiming. The problem with using this is you become inconsistent when aiming. Because when you aim with your ACOG, whatever, you tend to accidentally speed up too fast or too slow, and nothing's at a constant because of that, and it'll throw off your entire aim, I promise you. Horizontal and vertical look acceleration is a little different because that has to do with flicking. Like I said, a lot of the look sensitivities are literally just set up for flicking and recoil control. So it really depends on you. You can try out different sensitivities, but it is a good idea to have these on. I think even Royal Penguin uses advanced sensitivity just because you need some things to be constant, and then you need some things to not be. Your ACOG your ADS should always be constant, just because I mean, in my opinion, it should always be constant. But it's an opinion. You all can do what you want, but I say it should always be constant because if it's not, then you become inconsistent with your aim. Look acceleration is different because it's the way you flick. You want to be able to move fast when you need to move fast. You don't want that to be constant. If it helps out to be slow when you need to be slow, but then when it comes time to be fast and react, and you have slow look acceleration, or you just don't have advanced controller options on, you don't have any acceleration. It's constant, which means it's always slow. It does depend on your sensitivity though. The main thing you want to focus on is first set up these two in a way where it feels comfortable to one, control recoil control recoil control recoil, and two, be able to properly move to heads, not flick. Stay aimed and move to heads. If you're good with that, then you've got your vertical and horizontal sensitivity. You want to make sure you set these up too to where they match these two correctly. And that depends on you. So just make sure that you test both 1.0, that would be iron sights and non-magnified, and 2.5, which is magnified sights. Test those out first. Get good with those. Try it in the shooting range for like maybe 10 minutes. Once you're done with that, figure out your look acceleration to where this now you focus on flicking. You focus on being able to flick well with these. You got to turn them up. But you got to keep in mind this outer threshold. Outer threshold means that once your joystick gets out of this little sector, it's like a dead zone. When you go into the B circle, you activate the acceleration. You don't want this to be too small because then you accelerate too fast when you barely even move your joystick. And then it's not constant anymore. It's just accelerating forever. When you have a very small outer threshold, you got to be careful with that too, because it means you might not accelerate when you want to. You might push your thumb too far, and that might be uncomfortable for you. You need it in the correct dead zone. So that depends on your gameplay. You're going to have to figure that out yourself a little bit just by testing back and forth. Me personally, I like 14 because it means that I can move around normally, pretty normally, until I really need to move, and I can move really fast. See what I mean? I can just really fast, but then if I need to, I can move somewhat slow. Oops. I'm used to moving targets, to be honest. That's another thing. Try not to focus too much on moving targets. It's a good idea to test your tracking, but at the same time you don't want to get so used to it that you can't aim at a non-moving target. Oh gosh. Another good thing is your accessibility options. Your optic color, it is generally preference, but it is oop-de-doop-de-doo, do. Accidentally went to Ubisoft Connect. It is generally preference, but it is better to have light orange, yellow, well, not yellow, light orange, light green, cyan, those colors, because they're brighter and they reflect off the characters better. Generally the colors. Now, I know it might not be that obvious with orange, as these are yellow people, but in game it looks a lot better. The other thing is, you do want, I say you don't really want too high of an optic opacity, because then it, oftentimes you'll see yourself focusing too much on the optic and not what's behind it. And the other thing is, when you have like 100% optic opacity, most of the time you'll end up not seeing what's behind it, and you really don't want that, obviously, because you're trying to see what's behind the gun, what you're shooting at, and that's important. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. It is preference, though. That it is 100% preference. I mean, what else is there to say? What else is there to say? I think that's just about as much as I can say. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, because I want to make a good video of just figuring out how to do sensitivity and stuff like that, but I just don't have the questions that are needed. I have the knowledge, I just can't take it out of my brain unless I got the right questions being asked. I need to know what you guys need help with, instead of knowing that you need help with the game. You know what I mean? Too broad of a topic, in other words, I guess. Just ask questions, guys. Just ask questions. Subscribe, follow my Twitch, subscribe to my YouTube, whatever y'all want. See you guys on the flip side. Please ask questions. Please.